Hey guys, it's Jeff, and today we are doing a speed test between iOS 13 and iOS 12.4. Now, I've done this test previously and I actually didn't go as in depth as I could, so that's the reason for this video. And then the second reason is also because in iOS 13 Beta 3, we saw a huge performance jump, opening and closing apps, going throughout certain system processes. Everything just feels a lot faster. So that's the reason that I'm making kind of a follow-up speed test video. And the device that I'm using one singular device for both tests just to make sure that there's no discrepancies. I'm using the iPhone XS Max, this silver one, and we have 64 gigabytes of onboard memory here. And yeah, it's the iPhone XS Max, pretty standard. And let's go ahead with our test. We're going to be doing an on-screen test where we open and close apps, so kind of more of a realistic test, and then two benchmarks, the Geekbench benchmarks and then the Antutu benchmarks. And with the Geekbench benchmarks specifically, we have a battery test in there as well. So we'll be testing battery, CPU, GPU, and kind of get the full spectrum of how performance is on iOS 13 versus iOS 12.4. So let's go ahead and get started with our first test, the actual use test where we open and close apps both on iOS 12.4 and iOS 13. This video is sponsored by CyberGhost VPN, and unlike other VPN services out there, CyberGhost doesn't spy on your internet usage or collect and sell your data. What they also do is provide you the fastest VPN service possible each time you connect, but you also have a really cool option where you can select from streaming servers dedicated to individual streaming services like Hulu, HBO, Amazon, Netflix, YouTube Red. You get the idea. So go check out CyberGhost VPN in the video description below. They can support your iPhone, Mac, PC, and Android devices, all for just $2.75 a month. Okay, so for the first test, we are running iOS 12.4, and on screen here, you can see all of our specs as we go to the About screen. So what's important to note about this test is we are running on an iOS 12.4 beta. It's beta 6, but we are on like the 6 beta, as I said here. So it's quite refined and should hold up well to the official version of iOS 12.4 once that comes out. I've never seen too many kind of swing changes in performance between like a beta 5 or 6 to the official version. Now, obviously, this isn't some official test. We are just trying to get a baseline on Apple's claims of a 2x performance running iOS 13. Now, as you can see here, the test did yield a 52 seconds on this test to open and close all of the apps that we had on screen. And the test was simply just opening the app and getting it to the point where the app was fully loaded. Now, moving on to the second test, and we are going to be looking for that 2x performance claim that Apple has for iOS 13. The reason I'm running this test is just to see where we are at in the beta process. This isn't a final judgment of iOS 13. I really just recently noticed a huge boost in speed and performance in beta 3 of iOS 13. So I thought I'd test it out and see what's going on with the performance gains of iOS 13. Now, it does seem that we are getting significant performance gains here, specifically on the third beta here of iOS 13. We're seeing the same test that we ran on iOS 12.4, yielding a result of 38 seconds compared to the 51 or 52 seconds that we saw on iOS 12.4. Now, if we take the two results, the 38 seconds and then like the 51 to 52 second result on iOS 12.4, the difference between the two is actually around 34%, which is not obviously 2x performance gains that Apple is saying, but given we are in just the third developer beta and we're seeing this much performance gain in regards to just like software, that is pretty huge. So 34% over the kind of few betas here that we've seen with iOS 13, I'd say that's a very good result and very impressive. Okay, so on to our second test, and that was in the Geekbench benchmarks. I ran the test on the same versions of iOS that we did the previous test, and these are the numbers that we got between the two. For the single core score on the CPU test, we saw about a 3 to 4% boost in performance, and then when we moved on to the multi-core test for the CPU, we saw about a 5 to 6% performance improvement. Now, moving on to the GPU, we actually saw a 10% performance boost, and considering all we changed is software, no hardware changes whatsoever, that's a very big and impressive improvement coming from iOS 13 here. Also on Geekbench, we were able to test the battery drain. So from 100% to 1% on iOS 12.4, we saw a score of 3,528. And then when we upgraded to iOS 13 Beta 3, we saw a score of 3,772. So that will yield a 6.91% increase in battery performance. Again, just with a software update. Extremely impressive. Next up is our last and final test, and that is the Antutu benchmarking test. Very famous for putting a heavy load on the GPU and CPU, so we're going to get some pretty good results here after putting the phone under very strenuous test. Now, instead of going throughout all the numbers, I'll just explain what we did see, and that was a major improvement between iOS 12.4 and iOS 13. The total score improvement was around 7%, with the majority of the improvements coming from the GPU testing. The second factor was the CPU, with the memory speeds coming in last as far as improvement goes. So if we take the CPU numbers for the benchmarks that we did with Antutu and Geekbench, we saw about a 5 to 7% increase in regards to those numbers between iOS 12.4 and iOS 13. Now, as far as the GPU test, we saw about an average of 8% increase between iOS 12.4 and iOS 13, which again is a very, very good result. Now, for the battery, we only had one test, and that was in Geekbench, and that yielded about a 6.9% increase in battery performance just with a software update. So all in all, between the CPU, GPU, and the battery test that we ran, there is some pretty significant increase in performance just with software updating to iOS 13. Okay, so moving on to my actual use performance opinion, and yeah, performance is visually higher in iOS 13 Beta 3. Now, moving on from iOS 12.4 to iOS 13 Beta 1 and Beta 2, the performance across the board visually was not that great, and it was about a 2 to 3% performance increase. Now, moving up to Beta 3, you could visually see that things were just a whole lot faster loading apps, going throughout system kind of processes throughout the iOS 13 UI. And yeah, Beta 3 is a huge, massive gain to speed and performance when it comes to the iPhone and the iPad, which we are noticing both of these results are very heavily weighed. So on iPadOS, it's not as much as what we were seeing on iOS 13, but iOS 13 yields the best results specifically on the iPhone. And these tests were run on the iPhone XS Max, but we have seen results, very good results, even on the iPhone 8 Plus. So yeah, as far as my personal opinion goes, yes, these benchmarks are showing actual use results that we are seeing on iOS 13 Beta 3. And if you guys want to check it out for yourself, I'd highly recommend it. Just use the public beta if you want to update to the betas. Link in the video description down below. Beta.apple.com, I believe, is the link for that. So guys, thank you for watching this speed and performance video of iOS 13 versus iOS 12.4. If you have any comments, questions, or anything like that, please comment those in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to get back to you guys as soon as possible. Of course, if you want to watch more content like this and get more in-depth kind of analysis on iOS 13, make sure to get subscribed and also hit the bell button to get updates as soon as that content is released. So guys, again, thank you for watching this video, and hopefully I'll be seeing you in some upcoming content. Peace. Okay, so $2.75 per month, that is not a lot of money, right? And yeah, it's not, but that's exactly how much it cost to protect you on the internet through CyberGhost VPN. So if you want to make sure that you are more secure on the internet, go check out CyberGhost VPN in the link down below for more info on what a VPN can do for you.